All right, today we're going to talk about variables and expressions. So we're going to just talk about what is a variable, how can we use it in an expression, and then we'll also talk about substitution property, how to substitute when it gives you a value for a variable. Okay? So can anyone tell me what a variable is? Have you guys heard that word before?
Yes.
Yes? Not you. What is a variable? Anybody? It's just a what? It's not a number. Yes, good. It is a letter, right? It's a letter that represents a number, okay? So when we look at this, I'm going to show you a few different ways expressions could look, right? So you could have an expression, 4 minus x. Now somebody tell me first, how do you know this is an expression and not an equation? There's no equal sign. Good. Okay. So what is my variable in this expression? X, right? Now, could a variable be any letter? Yes. Okay. So it could look like 5x plus b. It could also look like a, b together. Now, can anyone tell me this right here where you see 5 and x together, or this right here where we have a and b together, what operation that is showing?
Multiplication.
Thank you. Now, it doesn't mean you're multiplying 5x times ab. These are two separate expressions, but it means in this first expression, whatever value you have for x, you're going to multiply, right? Whatever values you plug in for a and b, you're going to multiply those together, all right? Now, what if you see this, x over 5?
Divide.
Good, it means we're going to divide. So, here's the reason the other day I told you when we write out something with multiplication, we're not going to use an x, right? Like I don't want to say, you don't have to write this down, I don't want to say 5 times 4 because now that we're using variables, people might think this is 5 times the variable x times the number 4, okay? So there's two ways you could write that. If it's a variable, obviously you can just write those together, or you could put it in parentheses, okay? Those are kind of the two ways you'll see those written. All right, so first thing we're going to do is just talk about how do we write an expression using a variable, okay? So our first one is going to be $3 more than the cost of a sandwich. So when you're writing expressions, right, we did this a couple days ago, but it had given you all the numbers you needed, right? So now when you're using a variable, you're going to have to define what you want your variable to be. So what part of this sentence do we not know a numerical value for? The cost of the sandwich, right? So this is the part that we need to give a variable. What variable do you want to use to show that? Anybody? Okay, I heard y first, so we'll use that. Now, here's the deal. It's fine if you want to use s, but s looks really close to what number? 5. Sometimes people write their s's and they kind of look like 5. So I don't care if you use that, just make sure you're careful not to make them look just like a 5. Okay, so we know we have y. What number do we know for sure that we're going to be using? 3. And then what operation? Addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. How do you know that, Carson?
$3 more.
More than.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, those words mean to add. Now, we talked about more than and less than last week, right? When we see that word than, that means you're adding 3 to something. So what should I be adding 3 to? Y. Okay, so my expression is going to be y plus 3. Now, on addition, would it matter if you put 3 plus y? No. But I want you to get used to when you see that word more than or less than, it means you look after it to see what you're going to start with. Okay? Okay, let's do 2 more than $6 per hour. All right, can anyone tell me what part of this we don't know? Or you could tell me the parts we do know. Either way. Let's start with what we do know. Somebody tell me anything that we know. Carson?
2.
Okay. 2's an easy one. We're going to use the number 2. What else do we know? More than. What's that mean? We're going to add. There's one more thing we know for sure. The number 6. Okay. Now it says $6 per hour. So which part of that do we not know? How many hours? What variable do you want to use there? Should be an easy one.
Y.
Okay, Y would work. H would be great too because it's hours. All right. So again, we have that word more than. So we're going to start with what comes after it. So $6 per hour. How would I show $6 per hour? Good. 6 times H, or just write together 6 and H. And then what am I going to put after that? Plus what?
2.
Plus 2. Okay. Now, same thing as the one before. If you wrote 2 plus 6H, it's not going to be wrong, but just try to get in that habit of making sure when we see more than that we write it in that order. Okay? All right, how do we feel about those two things? Not too bad? Okay. All right, let's talk about substitution property. Can anyone tell me anything about substitution property? What's it mean you're going to be doing? Okay. What does it mean when you have a substitute teacher? What's that person doing? They're replacing the teacher, right? So same thing here. When we have substitution property, it means you're going to most likely replace a variable with a what?
Another variable?
Not another variable.
Oh, a number.
A number, right? We said variables represent numbers, okay? So I'm going to give you the definition if you want to write it down. It just says, for all numbers A and B, if A is equal to B, then A may be replaced by B. Okay, so we're going to evaluate this expression, D plus 5 minus F, if D is equal to 16 and F is equal to 18. Right, so here's where substitution property comes in. I want to rewrite D plus 5 minus F, substituting in the numbers 16 and 18. So somebody tell me how I would rewrite that using substitution. Instead of D, what would I write? 16 plus 5 minus what? 18. Okay, notice I just substituted in for the variable what it told me the variable was equal to. Yes? Okay, then all I have to do is follow order of operations. So, do I add or subtract first here? Add because it's on the left. Good. 16 plus 5 will give you a total of 21. Then all you can do is subtract 21 minus 18 is equal to 3. Good. Okay. All right, let's look at 6s plus 2t. Now, I'm going to put these up in the corner because we're going to use these same variables for the next few problems. So r equal to 1, s equal to 5, t is equal to 8. Okay, so first thing I want to do here is substitute for s and for t. Who can tell me how I would rewrite this, substituting for s and t? Gage.
6 times 5 plus 2 times 8.
Very good. All right, notice I just put those in parentheses because when you replace a variable with a number, would it make sense for me to not put the parentheses there? What's it going to look like if I don't put parentheses?
65.
65 plus 28, and I don't want to do that, right? So make sure when you replace those variables with a number, you put them in parentheses, okay? All right, what would I do first?
6 times 5.
Okay, can I also do 2 times 8 in that same step? Yes. All right, what is 6 times 5? 30, so I would get 30 plus what? Very good, 2 times 8 is 16. All right, then all I have to do is add those together for a total of 46. Okay, let's look at ST. Sorry, I'm going to move this down here. All right, let's look at ST over 20. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is substitute. All right, Brody, can you tell me what I would substitute for S and T?
No.
Where do you see the variables S equal to something, T equal to something?
5 and
Okay, so how would I write that?
5 and then 8.
There we go. Okay. All right, so I know those parentheses mean to multiply. 5 times 8 would give me a total of 40. Okay, can I divide those two numbers? Yes, what is 40 divided by 20? 2. Okay, remember you could cross those zeros off because that means they're divisible by 10. 4 divided by 2 is just 2. Okay, let's look at r plus 40 minus 3t. Okay, Carson, can you tell me what I would plug in for r and for t?
1 for R.
30. What about t?
8.
Okay. All right, who can tell me the first thing I would want to do here? Do what? So I heard parentheses, which is correct, but inside parentheses, which part do I do first? Subtraction or multiplication? Multiplication, good. So remember to still ask yourself that question. Inside parentheses, we still follow order of operations, right? So I would have 1 plus 40 minus what? 3 times 8 is 24. Okay? Now, when I subtract 40 and 24, this mistake gets made a lot, right? What is 40 minus 20? 20. So my number should be less than 20, right? What's 40 minus 24? 16. A lot of people want to say 26. Okay, so just be careful on that. What's 1 plus 16? 17. Okay, now do I really need to have those parentheses around 16, Brody?
Yes.
No, not necessarily, but you can leave them, right? They're not going to make a difference here. Okay? All right, last one. Does anybody have their book with them? They could open real quick. Somebody open your book real quick.
About Black Panther.
You said one person, not all 5.
It's fine. Whoever can get to page 15 first.
Listen, what is it?
Hey.
My book's not longer.
Oh, that's not bad.
All right. Savannah, on page 15. I want you to read example 4 for me. that example 4?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Sorry, that was number 4.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. Example 4 on page 15. You see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
A company rents a house for $200 plus an extra $30 per day. Write an expression that can be used to find the total cost to rent the house.
Okay, you said 200 plus 30 per day.
Yeah.
All right, so first thing we want to do is write an expression, okay? All right, so this is like the first examples we did. There's two things we know, there's something we don't know, okay? So can anybody tell me what this expression would look like? This one's pretty simple because it basically just is written out how you would write it.
2 plus 30,
Not 2,
200,
200, plus what?
30,
30
D,
D. Very good. Right? 200 plus 30 per day. If we don't know how many days, that's going to be the first thing we're going to do. Okay? So that's our expression, right? Now, is it possible for me to find out the cost to rent that for 6 days?
yes,
Yes? How would I do that?
30 times 6, I think.
I'm going to use the whole expression.
But then you add
200 plus 30 times 6.
There we go. So all you're going to do is take your expression and substitute 6 for D because we said D was the number of days. So if we're renting it for 6 days, you're just going to substitute, right? So I would get 200 plus what? What is 30 times 6? Think about 3 times 6 with a 0 at the end.
60, 120, 180.
Okay, 180.
2.
All right. And then I would get a total of,
380.
notice I put dollar signs because it's a real world problem. Okay, so make sure you label it correctly. Okay, all right. Overall, we feel okay with today's stuff? Not too bad.
We done?
We are done.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're going to be on page 16. Make sure you write down these numbers correctly, okay? So 14 and 16, 22 through 30, 32 through 40, 46, 48, evens only. Make sure we're not doing the odds, all right? Bonus today will be number 66 and 70. Remember, you should attempt the bonus because if you miss them, it doesn't count against you, right? But if you get them right, that's 2 extra points.